Hello. All right. It is officially 2 p.m. We can start now. So we have a special guest, Mansi, today. My name is Natalia. Sorry, I should have started with that. And I am a part of the ILC, the INTERalliance Leadership Council. Right now, I'm on the newsletter and content management team, but I'm helping to facilitate this AMA. So I'm going to thank everyone for joining here today. And now I'm going to pass off to Mansi, who is our special guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hey everyone. Yeah, Mansi Patel. I'm a program manager at Microsoft. I graduated University of Cincinnati last year, 2019, with a bachelor's in computer science and an MBA. So I went through UC's dual degree program, and looks like we have chats already. So I went through UC's dual degree program and did basically both the technical side and the MBA, the business side at the same time. And then joined Microsoft as soon as I began. And a little bit about why maybe I was chosen to do a little bit of the AMA session is because I actually started my entire career and journey into computer science, technology, and this field through INTERalliance. So almost when INTERalliance was first founded is when I joined. And so I got my very first internship through INTERalliance, and I continued that from junior year to senior year, had those connections and networking, which eventually led me to get this opportunity at Microsoft.
Yeah. For a little bit of background, InterAlliance is a local nonprofit group in the greater Cincinnati area. We started 6 years ago, so to hear that you started when we started is really awesome. So right now we are offering internships. I will post the link in the chat, and you can just go ahead and actually you can just go at interalliance.org. Oh, we started in 2005. Thank you, Heather. So at interalliance.org, you can go to their programs tab and see if you can apply for any internships. So that would also be a great way to do what Mansi is doing right now. So are you ready for some questions?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so our first question is, have you worked for a smaller company? And if so, what are the differences between working at a smaller company and a global corporation like Microsoft?
Yeah, so a couple of the companies that I co-opted for and interned for. So I started with GE Aviation. I did 2 internships with aviation and corporate. And then I went to Marathon Petroleum for 2 different kind of internships with auditing and with technology infrastructure. And then I moved back to GE Aviation and I did 2 internships there with GE in Germany. And so not that small business, but it is a separate branch of GE that is much smaller. And so I can speak about that, of how it was different working with GE in Germany versus working for a large corporation like Microsoft, and put a little bit of similarities in between there. So with GE in Germany, a lot of it is hands-on. So not only was I the program manager, my actual title was full stack developer. So I was developing, I was managing the project, and especially with smaller branches, smaller companies, you do a lot of the work. So you can be multiple roles at once. It doesn't matter who does what as long as the work gets done. And so if I have an expertise in one area, I love front-end development, and so I would be pushed those projects. And so a lot of it was one project after another. You're quickly turning timelines, you're quickly making decisions, which was a really great aspect for me in terms of program management. I was able to understand how the business impact was of the code that I was creating, what the customers were facing, and be able to quickly deliver that change and submit that commit into the repo and be able to move on to the next project. So that's a little bit different of how that smaller branch worked in terms of Microsoft. With Microsoft, I am a program manager, so I handle just a specific segment of the entire end-to-end process. So I handle, speaking with a customer, understanding their needs, understanding their challenges, and seeing how we can develop a scenario, we can develop a product that will help them. So I don't do much coding anymore. Unfortunately, that's all on my own free time. But that's a little bit of how it differs. You get the full multiple roles, multiple products in a smaller company. In a bigger company, you're focused and detailed on one particular aspect.
Nice. Another question. What skill do you possess that you believe is critical to your role as program manager?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, organizational skills. As a program manager, you're in meetings day in and day out. Like it never stops. So I started my meeting 7 a.m. and I probably won't finish till 6 p.m. And so you need to be organized, be able to jump from meeting to meeting and have silos in your mind of, I'm going into this next meeting. What do I need to have prepared? And you also need to have that technical skill set and technical foundation. So a lot of people think that as a program manager, you only need that business skill set, and that's enough. And generally, there are program managers that just have business backgrounds, but I found that a really effective program manager will have that technical foundation so that when I'm asked in a meeting what the architecture behind our solution is, I can answer it myself. I don't have to refer to the dev lead to answer that question. So having that background and understanding and passion for technology is still really important and a skill set needed for PMs. And then the third thing that's really, really important is just have that understanding and passion for what you're doing. And so if I wasn't passionate about technology, if I wasn't passionate about the service that we're providing our customers, it's never going to work. You're not going to be an effective PM. So I definitely empower you to choose companies as co-ops or internships that align with missions and things that you're passionate about.
Yeah. Speaking a lot about passions, we have a question from Jillian, thank you, in the Zoom chat where it asks, why do you prefer front end versus back end? Is it design or the specific languages that you prefer?
Yeah, it's a really design. I don't get to touch on the creative aspects as much as I would like to in my day-to-day job. And so front-end development allows me to be more creative. It allows me to use a different part of my brain that I don't normally use every day. And so it's just a preference. I mean, HTML, JavaScript, it's all, the first languages that I had learned, it was everything that I had picked up from when I first started coding, so I just have a preference towards that.
Yeah, I know a lot of our viewers in the chat have probably started coding as well, like starting HTML, JavaScript, CSS, C++, C. So can you give us some examples of like classes or courses you took to learn?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I stopped the web components in high school. So in high school, I took a couple of web development classes. And so that's what kind of allowed me to understand the front end aspect and design and how to bring things together and visualize your work. But in college, I did a lot of back end work. And so a lot of the classes that I took were really structured around data structures, algorithms, and artificial intelligence, which was something that I was really passionate about. It was up and coming, and it's something that I definitely wanted to make sure I had a good understanding of. And so especially if you're looking into joining Microsoft either as a developer or a program manager, data structures is something that every big technical company will require from you. And so these kind of classes I would definitely make sure I take. And not only take, I'll be brutally honest, I didn't have a good professor for data structures. And so I went back and took online courses to make sure that I didn't have that knowledge of data structures and was very, very familiar with it before we moved on to different modules.
It's actually, thank you for being really honest. I know myself and a few other viewers are probably going to go to college soon, and to
Yeah.
know there are probably a few not as very good, very good wording, not as very good professors that as we hope to be in college. Online courses are a great idea. I
Mhm.
would like to
Yeah, a
ask
lot of
about.
them are free, especially with computer science. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Especially with CS, there's YouTube, there's Khan Academy, there's so many different resources that are free for you to just learn these different topics.
Yeah. As Heather says, Microsoft has free options too. Thanks for that.
Microsoft has free options too. LinkedIn, which is now part of Microsoft, has free options as well.
Yes, it's amazing. Oh, can you explain Microsoft's process for training new technical employees? Because you mentioned a lot about the coding aspect, but does Microsoft train their employees to be more technical?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's three different aspects for PM or software engineer, which I'm sure many of you are deciding between what track to do. So I'll speak a little bit about both of them. But first of all, depending on your organization, you have boot camps. So as a PM, I went to an Azure boot camp my first week, and I'll continue that every year to make sure I'm brushing up on all these technologies, to understand get my coding back up. And so these are 8-hour classes for a week straight that are actually fun. They're very entertaining, and so that's how they encourage us to do continuously learn and grow. The second thing is that we have hackathons. So we have this thing called 1 week, which is one of my favorite weeks of the year. And we basically stop what we're doing and have a hackathon. So a company-wide hackathon that allows us to learn new technologies, to meet other people from the company that we never would have met before, and work on developing a product for that 1 week. And learn new technologies, and so that's the second aspect that they do. And the third aspect is what my organization, Cosign Servicing and Delivery, does is that 1 day a month we have a day of learning. And so that day we cancel all of our meetings. So that is the 1 day a month that I don't have, 8 hours of meeting back to back to back. And I get that time to do certification course, do a LinkedIn learning course, pick up on something that I have not done before, or work with my team to learn a new technology together. And so Microsoft is always, always, always giving you opportunities to learn and grow your technical skill set more. You just have to make sure that you take these opportunities.
We have a question from Zach in the chat. I rhymed this. That's kind of funny. Anyway, out of curiosity, we recently heard that a lot of the Agile mindset is Microsoft being influenced by Agile.
Yeah, so absolutely, we keep on an agile framework, an agile mindset. We have our own terminology around that, but we do monthly sprints. And we have a backlog that we're following. We make sure that we're running through it, that our burn down chart is appropriate month by month. We do demos and retro sessions. And so we definitely are influenced by that, and we do follow that quite a bit. My team specifically follows that because we're a brand new team. We started late in 2018, so it's still considered very new for Microsoft. So we're continuously building, continuously pushing out new features every month, and we absolutely follow the agile methodologies and the mindset behind there.
Yeah, I'm just curious because you mentioned that you are that 2018, like late 2018, is an early group. What would be the oldest group?
There are a lot of old groups. So you talk about Office, right? So Office was created when, Windows first started. And so something like that. It's a very mature organization. A lot of people have an understanding of what Office is. It's marketed very well. It's supported very well, and it's a big product offering. Versus what my service is, we just went into private preview in November of 2019. So basically, we soft launched in November. We, didn't make too much of a big hurrah about this product, but said, hey, if you hear about us, join us. And so that's kind of the difference between an older product versus a newer product, and the timeline difference between them.
It's actually really amazing. Microsoft has a lot of opportunities. Now, do you mind explaining how you got into this career or what inspired you to become a program manager?
Yeah, so actually my interview with Microsoft, and this is something, a little bit of a side note, is as you go along in your careers, and when you get to that college phase, I encourage you to go to conferences that relate to your major. And that's how Microsoft found me, was partially through a conference and partially through LinkedIn. And so definitely these big companies are active at these conferences. So if you are aiming for Microsoft or Google or any other big company, be active at conferences. So, how did I get into program management? I already had a passion for technology, and I knew that in the future, eventually, I wanted to be a manager and have that type of managerial role. And so that's why I did my MBA in conjunction with my bachelor's in CS at UC. And so when I had my interview, Microsoft came on UC's campus. This was the first year that they had done in-person interview. And my interview was actually supposed to be for a software development role. So I had prepared for that. I had taken, leak coding classes. I had done a lot of things for software. And then in the interview, she looked at my resume and she was like, you have an MBA. Do you want to do software development track or do you want to do program management track? And so this kind of fell to me during the interview. And in my mind, I had wanted to do program management eventually anyway. So to be able to fast track it by 2-3 years was enticing for me. And so that's why I really decided that, hey, like this is something that I'm passionate about anyway. I have never done this before. As I said, all my co-ops were coding related. And so in the interview, I just said, yeah, like let me interview for program manager. So she switched the interview questions to PM related questions. And luckily I passed that one and moved on to the second round of interviews, which is which is actually here in Seattle. It's in-person interviews and 4 rounds of interviews.
That's a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Backtracking a little bit, you said that you got a MBA before in like software development. Do you know any other degrees that people in PM would usually have?
Yeah, so definitely IS is one of the big majors as well that PM track has. So IS, information systems, is a track where a lot of people have that business background and that a little bit of that technology, not as much as CS. But a little bit of that technology, IS, IT, and a lot of the business roles. So if you're doing, organizational management, if you're doing some sort of role that combines that business and technology, that's really what what majors are with PMs.
All right then. That's so I guess you can just be a product manager if you just have the drive for it. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. And so even if you decide, no, like, let me do something different with my bachelor's and then come back and say, hey, maybe I want to try technology, Microsoft has a lot of programs for people who, like Leap, who don't necessarily have that technical background, but want to get into technology. And so there's a lot of programs that you don't have to have that tech background in order to work for Microsoft.
It's awesome. Two questions from Heather. I'm going to start with, do you feel connected with the bigger organization being in Cincinnati with the headquarters in Seattle?
Oh, actually, I moved from Cincinnati to Seattle. And so that was a big, big, big decision for me. My family is all in Cincinnati, and I was the only one that I knew moving to Seattle, apart from a few friends from UC who also got hired by Microsoft. But I feel disconnected now from UC, maybe flipping Heather's question a little. I do feel disconnected from friends at UC who still meet up just because of the proximity of being close to one another. So I feel that not as much anymore because we're all video chatting now. And so I'm back in with everyone. But there is that disconnect, and you do feel that. I'm going to be brutally honest. You do feel that disconnect, but it's worth it. I would encourage you to find co-ops that are outside of Cincinnati, that are outside of Westchester, Mason area, Sycamore, wherever you all are from. Find internships either globally or in a different state, because that experience is so worthwhile.
Hey, oops. Computer just completely glitched out on me.
I can read Heather's question if you want.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about working for Microsoft? And I would say my favorite part is that although I've only been here for 10 months, anytime I ask someone a question, whether it's the stupidest question, everyone is more than willing to sit with me to, brainstorm, to understand, and catch me up to speed on what's going on. And so, in the theme of being very honest, I'm in a world with Harvards and Yales and Ivy Leagues. And so naturally, when I first joined, I was like, what am I doing here? Who in the world hired me? And will they find out that I don't belong here? So a little bit of that imposter syndrome that I had worked so hard in college to overcome crept back in at Microsoft. And so my favorite part about Microsoft is that even though I felt those, moments where I'm like, am I smart enough to be working at a company like this? People brought me back down and said, you absolutely are smart. You are, there's a reason why you were hired, and there's a reason why you're succeeding in the team. And so that's my favorite part, is people are there for you. Nobody cares about where you went to college, what your background is, or even I'll be in meetings with my corporate vice president. I'll be in meetings with my vice president, and he treats me just as he would treat a director, he would treat my manager. And so that's really important, is to join a company, to intern with a company whose values and mission you align with, and whose people are like family to you. A little cheesy, but I mean, that's really my favorite part, is that whatever Microsoft does aligns with who I am as a person, and what I stand for as well.
Yeah. You mentioned before about imposter syndrome. Can you explain what exactly it is and how you managed to get over it? Or if you haven't, what steps you're taking to get over it?
Yeah, so imposter syndrome is, my definition is really that feeling that you get, that you don't belong here because you don't have the right skill sets, you don't have the right qualifications, you're not as technically adverse as other people in the room are, or you feel inferior to other people in the room. And so that was my take on imposter syndrome. It's something that I had when I first started college. Was, all of these people in the room are way smarter than I am, and how am I ever going to pass CS? Like, should I drop out? Should I not drop out? And so that was my feelings with imposter syndrome. And of course, I worked through them by co-ops. Succeeding in co-ops allowed me to say, hey, maybe in the classroom I'm not picking up all of the topics, but at real life work, which is way more important, I'm really delivering value and I'm really doing the good work. So that's how I kind of started overcoming this imposter syndrome. I took a lot of courses. I was president of a lot of organizations that allowed me to attend conferences, that helped me attend sessions within those conferences to overcome and develop skill sets to get over this imposter syndrome. And then as far as Microsoft, when I joined, those feelings kept crept back in. So a couple of things that I did was exercise curiosity at Microsoft to help me overcome. And so I would always ask why. You know, what is the reason for doing this? What's the benefit for the company? What's the benefit for our customers of doing this? And so exercising curiosity really helped me overcome and learn. Second part of that is gaining knowledge. The more knowledge you have on your particular area, your particular skill set, the more likely you're going to be able to answer those questions that the directors throw at you, answer the questions that the CVPs throw at you, because you have the knowledge and expertise. So gain, really, once you start working, gain knowledge in that field, in that project, and that will really help you overcome that, that imposter syndrome. And then third thing that I did to overcome that with Microsoft was really talk to your peers, because we're all going through the same thing. If they didn't come from UC, they came from a different college. Even my friends that came from these Ivy Leagues, everyone has these feelings. Everyone is like, am I capable? Will I answer the question correctly? And so if you talk to your peers, the more and more you realize that we're all feeling these feelings at a certain point in our careers. I don't think imposter syndrome will ever go away, but you can take these different steps to help you work through that.
Yeah. Thank you very much talking about that. I know I feel that when I'm in ILC. I just joined this year. It's a really, really good organization. I recommend any of you in the chat if you'd like to join in. I believe applications are on interalliance.org. I can post the link in here. But because I joined this nonprofit organization that was going for amazing goals to teach, well, to show high schoolers how amazing IT was, I felt kind of inferior because I didn't know what IT was when I joined. But then after a while, exactly at the steps you took, I took those same steps, and it really, really helped. Now, I I have a really good question from Soumya. Right?
Yeah.
That's your name. So, okay, yeah. Are there any product/program management roles in non-tech related fields?
Yeah, absolutely. So program management is everywhere. Everywhere you need a plan to make a product go from an idea to actual physical product. And so every field has some sort of product or program manager role, whether it's healthcare, whether it's retail, manufacturing, all of these different verticals have the program management type roles. And so something that I was also interested in was healthcare. I'm really passionate about it, and now more than ever, we need innovations in that field. We need solutions. And so I've already been talking to people in healthcare from Microsoft that, trying to understand their roles and program managers from the healthcare division. So if you're interested in these kind of different non-technical related fields, still within a technical company, there's different opportunities. Otherwise, if you're interested, hospitals have program managers. They have, they need people to drive the business forward. So almost every single field has program manager. You don't have to be technical related to be a PM.
Yep. On a completely different topic, Zach is asking how you've mentioned conferences several times. Can you explain a little more about conferences and how we can get involved with them? People who
Yeah,
probably don't work at
absolutely.
Microsoft?
Yeah, so conferences and hackathons, two really, really important areas to get connected with people, with industry professionals. And so how I got involved was through ACMW and ACM. So these are two organizations, they're national organizations that University of Cincinnati just has orgs within the campus. And so I was president of ACMW, which is Association for Computing Machinery Committee on Women. Um, and the school actually provided us funding, and we had a donor that provided us funding as well to sign up and go to some of these conferences. So the conferences are like Grace Hopper. which is really, really one of the biggest conferences for women in technology, but also conferences like NESB, it was just a conference for engineers, specifically Black engineers. And these are conferences that help you, if you're a minority in the field, go to them and be able to meet other people that look like you. And that also helps tackle the imposter syndrome, is that I'm not the only one that looks like me that is succeeding in this field. And so you get involved to conferences by just researching that, right? So if I type in on Bing, conferences for computer science majors, right? A whole bunch of conferences will pop up, and you can actually get your college admissions team, or your college, like let's say engineering team, to provide you funding for these conferences. Or if you join organizations like this, they already are writing grants to send their members to these conferences. And so these are different ways that you can get involved in the conference. Sometimes they are expensive, so I would definitely try to get scholarships. Almost all of these conferences also offer scholarships. So if you apply early enough, you can get almost like a full ride to these conferences.
As a great opportunity. I know that building off of that, IA does have a lot of events, especially built for high schoolers. So again, just go to interalliance.org and just check out what we have. It's available. Even with the COVID-19 out there, we do have a lot of programs coming up. So just stay tuned for that. We have a question from Jillian that's been supported by Heather, asking what books or podcasts do you recommend, personally or professionally?
Yeah. Personally is How to Influence People. Shoot, I forget. It's something along those lines. Is a book that I read a long time ago when I was interning in Germany, which was basically how to win people and influence people. Dale Carnegie's book. I don't remember the exact title, but that's what I use. Yep, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so that's what I used to, one, negotiate. The people don't talk about these taboo topics, but that's what I used to negotiate during all of my full-time offers that I received, and still use that negotiating tactic for my program management role. And so that was something that I used personally and professionally, as well as for program management, or if you want to join the software development side of things. There are a lot of resources and books, such as like Hacking the Coding Interview or Hacking the PM Interview. And so these are different resources that I used to help me study, help me prepare. And then I also just read books on personal self-care and stuff. So I am really passionate about my finances and my future. And so I read a lot of books on how to take care of your personal finances, how to set up, a Roth IRA, a 401k, how to make my money go in a long-term aspect to go far. And so I read podcasts, or I listen to podcasts on passive real estate. It's called Passive Real Estate Investment. And so I listen to these kind of podcasts, and that's just because that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I actually, my commute in Germany was 2 hours both ways. And so I got about 12 books read in that 1 year that I had a commute.
That's amazing. Speaking of like bouncing on, how do you manage all that work life and having a lot of books, like reading books, at least a podcast? How do you manage that? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you have to make time for that, and you have to like these day of learning that we have every month. I do take time to read books, and I do take that time, and that is learning for me. And so just as Microsoft gives me opportunities to do that, I do take these days that Microsoft offers to learn, to read something, but I have to manage my schedule and manage my time effectively. So a lot of times on holidays when we don't have work, or Microsoft gave us 2 free mental health days. So I use that time, 2 days the entire organization takes off. And so I'll use that time to catch up on reading, to listen to podcasts that I missed a couple episodes of. But also I enjoy going running. And so when I go running, I take that time to either read that book, or listen to that book, or listen to that podcast.
That,
So
that
multitask, multitask, get your work done, and then find time for your hobbies and passions.
I see. So I guess Microsoft would be more of a work, and then you have to find your own hobbies. Do you ever think of Microsoft as a hobby as well as work?
So sometimes I do a lot of side projects apart from my day-to-day job. So I interview people, and that's one of my favorite things to do. I love sitting down with candidates and going over everyone that I interview impresses me incredibly of all their abilities. And so that's kind of like that hobby that I do with Microsoft. I interview, I volunteer, and so Microsoft actually pays us, not really pays us to volunteer, but pays the organization that we volunteer at. And so every hour that I volunteer, that organization gets $25. And so which is huge for an organization, especially like the organizations that I volunteer at. And so you do have different side hobbies and passion projects. Like I said, the 1 week hackathon, it's a 1 week process, but we've already been planning this months ahead. I already know what kind of project I'm working on, and finding new team members to work with. And so these are different kind of activities that Microsoft already supports and does.
Nice. I remember you mentioned that you took web design classes back in high school. Do you have any recommendations for high school students to like get an extra edge for their future?
Yeah, so one, like, don't stress. Like, of course, everyone wants that extra edge. When I was in high school, I was like, how can I stand above my peers? Like, how can I get that one course, one certification, one thing? But don't stress about that. Like, you will find your courses and certifications and whatever you're passionate about in your own time. But right now in high school, exercise curiosity. If you've never taken some sort of crazy art class, take that crazy art class. If you've never taken a class for people, what I did in college was all my electives I chose were completely out there, stuff that I had never done before, like teaching people with different abilities. And so I learned about how and working with the deaf community. And so as I learn of people with different abilities, that's what I found out that I had a real passion for that. And so what I do now at Microsoft in my one week project is going to be helping this girl who doesn't have a limb, and helping her play a guitar. And so we're doing this kind of Azure and Connect type of project that will allow her to give her function to play musical instruments. So don't stress about web classes and coding classes. Those will come if you major in it. But find those other kind of classes that you don't think you normally would take, because those will turn into your passions.
That is some great advice. I might actually start doing that because
Yeah. So I took orientation to deafness in college, and I was like, I know nothing about the deaf community. Let me learn. Let me educate myself. And so that helped me a lot. It actually helped me design my senior design project at the end of the 5 years. And so these kind of courses, they're so out there, so different, will be more impactful on you and your future, and will actually set you apart than learning the 5th level of Java, or having that second introductory to AI course. That's what Microsoft looks for. And I definitely think other companies that I interviewed for, so I had 13 full-time offers which is way too much, don't do that, when I graduated. So, and I noticed that all of these companies, they're not looking just for my technical skill sets, but what are my passions? What did I do besides coding all day long? And so that's where you get that.
That is amazing. Speaking of like coding, I mean not coding, but like finding passions. How did you decide to work in Germany? Because that like how and what were the steps you took to travel abroad? Because that is a big decision, and the idea of just Germany out of the U.S. is just interesting. Can you explain a little
Yeah.
bit?
So I just stumbled upon an email my sophomore year of college that was like, hey, if you want to co-op internationally, apply to either Germany, Japan, and if you want that, international experience. So I was like, let me just apply. I didn't think of anything of it. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to live abroad. But then as I thought more and more about where I want my career, what I want in the future, what my 5-10 year plan was, I realized that I wanted to work for all of these global companies. And so part of that is if I don't have experience myself of working internationally, it's going to be really hard to empathize with team members who are on different parts of the world. And so I took that aspect and said, hey, and also I'm vegetarian, so I knew it would be a little bit harder for me to find food in Japan because it's such a seafood culture there. And so that's why I chose Germany. And so UC has this program called International Co-op Program. It's been existing for 25 years now, and so it's well developed, and they have a lot of resources to connect you with internships there. And so I went through that program and just applied. I got accepted, and then I went through an intensive language program. So I knew no German before this program, and it's basically 8 hours a day for 16 weeks you learn German. And so that's what I did for one summer. I gave up one co-op rotation, or I did half of one co-op rotation, and then did this language course the rest of the half. And so that's how I kind of got into this. I just stumbled across it. I knew what I wanted for my future, and I knew what skill set I was lacking. And so I was like, let me just try it. Yep, exactly the link that was posted on their ICP. And then I ended up TAing for ICP eventually after I came back from Germany as well. And also, just part of that, I also knew that I only wanted to work with GE in Germany. I only wanted to work with a big company because I thought that I wanted to work with GE in the future as my first role. And so that's why I wanted to work with that company specifically. So if you do end up interning with a company, a lot of times if they're international, this program can help you get connected. And if you want to work for this company full time, they can help you get connected through Germany or Japan, and gain that knowledge of the company from there and bring it back to the States.
That is amazing. I see the languages they offer are German, Japanese, French, and Spanish.
Yes, they expanded it last year. Yep.
Yeah, they have a lot of opportunities. Kind of happy I'm going to UC now, so it's a good time.
Oh, I'm very glad to hear that as well. Yes, UC has, let's see, in the spirit of honesty, I never wanted to go to UC. I was like, it's too close to my parents. I'm going far away. Peace out. And I said, there's no way in heck. All my life, my entire life, I said, no, I'm going far. And then I stepped on campus. I had my tour, and within probably 10 minutes of the tour, I said, this is the place for me. And I am very glad of that decision, very thankful, because if it wasn't for UC, I wouldn't have gotten these 5 co-op opportunities, 2 in Germany, 2 degrees in the same amount of time it takes everyone to graduate. So yeah, you made a good choice.
I have to ask, we have at UC, I know there are a lot of co-ops, like engineering students who have to take co-ops, but do you also take internships while you're going through your life as a student?
Yeah, so companies consider co-ops and internships the same thing. So yes, we support all universities. So my brother went to OSU. We support all universities. But you see, for different majors. So if you're in business, you can choose to co-op or you can choose to intern. An internship is just those summer semesters of interning, while co-op is year round. For companies, they consider co-op and internship the same exact thing. You're there for 16 weeks, 14 to 16 weeks. You're the same as every other intern. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you so much. Can I also ask, do you know what's going to be coming up next for you as a program manager? Like, do you have any far-reaching career goals you'd like to go for?
Yeah, of course. I try to plan out my career as much as I can because that is the thing that I'm most passionate about is growing my career. So I just got promoted back in March to the next level of program management. So I definitely think PM track is where I want to go and where I want to take my career eventually. So I'm in an individual contributor role right now, but I want to go into a lead type of role. And as I mentioned a little bit briefly, I know that what I do right now is I help companies, I help independent software vendors, succeed and reduce costs. But what I really am passionate about and what I enjoy doing is helping people. And I want to design and develop and manage products that help people. And so eventually I do want to move into maybe Microsoft Healthcare or Microsoft Accessibility, different avenues that I haven't had to experience yet, but stay with that PM role, and eventually become CEO of Microsoft. That is the ultimate end goal.
Yes, I believe in you. You got this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to know, are there any projects or any products that you've been a part of that are being implemented maybe in our daily lives or in someone's daily life?
So not quite, not quite yet. I've only been here for 10 months. But the service that we're working on right now, it's called Update Staging Lab. And essentially it is impacting ISVs, as I mentioned, independent software vendors. We're helping them test their applications early so that when Microsoft, you see that, Windows is updating every couple months and you're like, ignore. And so I work on that aspect, and I help them test their application before that Windows is updating kind of screen pops up for all of them to make sure that their application works as it should for their end users. And so it is really saving them time, saving them money, and saving them the hassle. And the end user is reaps the benefit of our partnership and engagement, that they everything works perfectly for them. And so that's what I do right now, the little impact that I have had right now. But I hope to do even more impactful projects in the future.
Yeah. Uh, you mentioned before you're in Seattle now, yes. So Zach's asking, how does traveling for work impact your social personal life?
Okay. So I chose to live close to where I work. I knew what building I was going to be in. So Microsoft has, I would say, like, I don't know, 50 to 75 buildings at least in the Redmond. Yeah, crazy.
That's a
I,
lot.
it's an entire campus, a giant city of a campus. But they have so many buildings on Redmond side. I knew I was going to be in Redmond. I interviewed for that team. And so I decided to live within 15 minutes of working. I do live next to a transit center, so I take the bus to work, but Microsoft pays for my bus pass and everything. They pay for everyone's bus pass because they encourage you to take public transportation, reduce on your emissions and everything, and carpool as much as possible. And so Microsoft already pays for that pass. And so that's how I travel. I do miss not having a car. I chose not to bring my car to Seattle, but I do miss that. And it doesn't affect how I hang out with friends. I still on weekends, because weekdays I go to bed at 10 o'clock. But on weekends, I still hang out with friends, either Uber or carpool, or even take the bus. It's really simple. It's far, far, far more advanced bus system than we have in Cincinnati, and so a lot of the routes are very close by. You can go from one place to another really, really quickly. But yeah, you have to be social. You have to try to find new people. I joined apps like Bumble BFF. I'm gonna embarrass myself here a little, but I joined apps to find friends and find people because it can get very lonely being out somewhere by yourself. So you have to make that effort to go out and find new people.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, Zach also said it's very helpful. My thoughts exactly. We have a question from Kevin. He's asking, what do you enjoy learning about the most?
Okay. Um, so not really Microsoft related, but I enjoy, like I mentioned, I touched briefly on learning about finances. Especially, I think it's important because our generation, they don't teach us in high school really how to do your taxes, how to save money, how to invest money, how to make your money work for you. And so I enjoy learning about finances the most. You'll see, you can check levels.fyi and see how much you make as a Microsoft employee, and any other tech employee, and see that they give us a really good, a very grateful for a good salary, but then it's up to you to manage that money wisely, and invest it for yourself or for others. And so that's what I enjoy learning about is finances, and making sure that I am doing it wisely for myself and my future. And one thing that I also do, which I know a lot of people don't do, is every month I take out $100 from my paycheck, and either buy groceries. So I used to do this when I interned. Also, we went to Reach Out Lakota, and we would donate groceries through there. Um, but now I donate through Microsoft's portal, and Microsoft matches my contribution. So my $100 goes into $200, and they match that contribution 100%. And then I give that to the organizations that I volunteer at. And so learning about these different opportunities to help yourself financially as well as your community financially, I think is really important.
That is a great idea. And I'm just curious, I guess final question, anyone? Three, two, okay. I was just gonna ask a question about finances considering college. I know there's a lot of student debt that revolves around it. Were you able to plan all that out as well, or was it more
Yeah.
of a wing it sort of deal?
So I was very, very fortunate. My parents paid for a lot of my college, and so I had scholarships that I applied to beforehand, that I received, like Cincinnati scholarship, different kind of scholarships. But I was able to take that burden of paying for college off of my parents once I started co-oping. And so when I started co-oping, I paid for my living expenses myself. So they still paid for my tuition, but I paid for all of my, apartment rents and food and groceries and, car and everything through the money that I had earned on co-op, which is one of the fantastic things about co-op is that you get to earn that income. And then second thing, I know I talk about finances a lot, but what I did was I opened up a Roth IRA account when I was 18, when I first got into college, and a lot of that co-op money I put into there. That investment has doubled since then, and so I definitely encourage you, if you have that opportunity, if you have a lot of college paid off for, invest that into your future, and make sure that you're aware of that and that you can do that.
All right. All right. We are ending at 3 p. We're almost at 3 p.m. We're like 6 minutes away. So thank you so much, Mansi, for coming and talking to us all about what you're doing at Microsoft and how uh, you're just dealing with quarantine too. This is a rough time, but thank you again so much for coming. Thanks everyone in participating. This was a really, really awesome session. I'm really happy we're part of this. So, I don't know how to end these. Do you have any final
No,
thoughts?
that's fine. I just put in my contact information. So I know a lot of these times during these AMAs that I do, you don't want to ask the taboo questions, right? I talked a little bit about negotiation, things like that. So if you have any of those taboo questions that you don't really think, it's not appropriate in this forum to ask out loud, I put in my email. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have. I don't think anything is taboo. I'm very open and honest about, how everything works around here, and the struggles that I went through in college as well. And so definitely feel free to ask me on there and reach out on LinkedIn as well.
All right. Again, thanks so much. Those are our final thoughts. Thanks, everyone. And that right there, Heather just put it on, is the thank you, is the link for it. Again,
That's
thanks.
great. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is Heather. I do want to give a huge shout out to Natalia for being our facilitator today. She really stepped up big time for me because I didn't think I was going to be able to be here. So you did an incredible job. And Mansi, we're so proud of you from an INTERalliance perspective, all of your experience and all of your advice today. I can't thank you enough. I will say, and I actually just tweeted this is one of my favorite sessions because I think your genuine honesty and all of your advice will be a huge asset for everyone that attended today. So thank you, both of you. And again, thank you everyone who joined. Fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right,
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.